Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Hi, I'm Maria. I am the owner of Baffling Beads AT, a shop where I sell handmade beaded jewelry over on Etsy, and also a second shop, Baffling Beads for You, where I sell checked glass beads and some brass supplies. If you're interested in any of my shops or my social media, you can find the links down below in the description box, where I always note them down. So, it's been quite a long time since I've made a tutorial. So today it's time for a new one. And I've decided to go for some smaller woven earrings, my Mandala earrings. They kind of look like an ice crystal or snowflake, so if you make them with steel or sterling silver supplies, anything silver together with some white crystal beads, maybe some gold in there, you know, you can make some very pretty earrings for winter or Christmas. But of course you can just make them in very bright colors too, so that it more looks like a mandala. That's why I called them that. So I've got a black and gold combination here. These. You can decide for yourself what you're going for. And they are this large. So they are pretty small, I would say. They aren't super stiff, so they bend slightly, but if you get the tension right, they should be pretty straight. So there's no need to always adjust them all the time, because you have the feeling that they're bending and they're not straight. And that's actually the most important thing for this design, thread tension, because it can completely destroy the design. So if you are not able to figure out how much tension you need, this is not the design for you. I would say it's an intermediate design just because of that. So if you have too little thread tension, then you have far too much thread on the outer rows, and then it will get all wobbly and it won't hold its shape properly. And if you have too much tension, you will always have the bending to one side, you know, because there's not enough thread on the outer row, and then it will start bending to the front or the back, and you know, all these little segments, these will be all bent and twisted into different directions and they won't stay straight. So this is something that you may need a few tries for to figure out how to properly bead them. But otherwise, this design is pretty straightforward. You only have to go around the middle circle, I think 4 times. And the very first row is a modified brick stitch. So if you're interested in the brick stitch, please check out my tutorial. And yeah, otherwise it's more like freestyle beading, I would say. I don't know whether there really is any other technique in there. What you may have some trouble with is finding the right beads. I am using demi-rounds, 11/0 demi-rounds in this design. Could be that your bead shop doesn't have them, and I wouldn't advise to use Miyuki spacer beads because they are a little wider than demi-rounds from Toho, and there's probably not enough space to use spacer beads instead. So I would advise you to stick to Toho demi-rounds if you want to make this design. And I would actually love to provide a download again for these guys. Again with 10 sets of colorways. And I will sell all the brass supplies in my shop and also the bicone beads. The only thing that you would need to get somewhere else are 15/0 Miyuki round beads and 11/0 demi rounds. So yeah, I think that is all that I want to say for now. So I would say we switch over to the bead mat, and I will show you which supplies you need for this design, and then we start with the beading part. So this is everything that you need. For all my small earrings that I weave, I use Miyuki beading thread. It's the size B. This one is the champagne color, I think. So it's not gold, it's champagne, because it matches very well the brass supplies that I will use. So that's the thread. Then for the middle part, I will use circular brass findings. These are 1 centimeter in diameter. Then these are 3 millimeter brass beads. You can get these in my shop currently. I will also try to add these findings soon so that you know where to get them if you need them. But yeah, these are 3 millimeter brass beads. 3 millimeter bicone beads. These are Rutkowski beads. As I said before, you can get these in my shop. I currently have 10 different shades and I try to increase my range. Then these are 11O demi rounds from the brand Toho. I will only use one shade for this earring and it's matte black. Then you need 15O Miyuki round beads. I decided to go with 2 different shades of Miyuki round beads and then 1 shade of 11O Miyuki Delica beads. This is also a very vibrant red. And that is all. I will use 1.5 arm length of thread. It's probably far too much, but yeah, I'm going with that length. Then you pick up one of those brass findings and you leave some tail thread. We don't really need it for anything. We just want to secure the thread in the end and tie some knots. So just leave a few centimeters to work with. Tie a double knot. And then thread your needle. People always ask me which size of a needle I use. I always use 10s or 12s. So let's start. As I've said before, the very first row is a modified brick stitch. So for this I pick up 1 demi round, 1 Miyuki round bead and 1 demi round. Push it down to the finding. Go from the back to the front through that finding and you go up directly through that second demi round. Like this. You don't want to push them too close. So next you pick up 1 Miyuki round bead and another demi round. Push them down. From the back to the front and back up through that demi round. And you place them pretty close, but not too close, And again, 1 Miyuki round bead, 1 demi round. Push them down. From the back to the front and up through that demi round. Like this. By the end of this row, you want 13 demi rounds sitting right on top of that finding. So let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So another 3. Two, 4, 6, 8, 10, 13. Okay. So now we need to connect this row by picking up one Miyuki round bead. You go through the very first demi round you added to that finding, again to the back, and through that finding to the front. You pull through and you go up through that demi round. And you pull tight. And that's your very first row. So now, next, we want to add those beaded columns, you know, the ones with the Miyuki Delica beads and the brass beads in the middle. Those are the beaded columns that we want to add next. So you pick up one Miyuki Delica bead, one brass bead, one Miyuki Delica bead. I think I'm going with black. So one Miyuki Delica bead, one brass bead, one Miyuki Delica bead, and a Miyuki round bead. I'm going for black for this row. And you push them down, like so. And you go back down through the Miyuki Delica beads and the brass bead, and you skip that last bead, okay? Then you go back through that demi round on that finding to the back, through the binding, you pull tight that you have this little column sticking up, and up again through that demi round. And that's your first little beaded column that you will need. Then you pass through that Miyuki round bead that is placed in between those demi rounds. You go from the back through that demi round, through that finding, and up again through that demi round. Never skip this step, because if you wanted to add these little columns or these rows of beads while you're coming out of those Miyuki round beads, they would get all crooked. So you need to make sure that your thread is coming from the bottom and not the sides, okay? You pick up those beads again. Miyuki Delica bead, brass bead, Miyuki Delica bead, and Miyuki round bead. Push them down. Go back through those very first 3 beads, through that demi round to the back of the finding, back to the front through that finding, and up again through the demi round, right on top of the finding. Like this. You pass through the next Miyuki round bead, and again you go through the demi round from the back to the front and up again. pick up your beads. Push them down. You skip the very last bead and you go back through those other 3 beads, through that demi-round from the back to the front, and back up again through that same demi-round. And now you continue another 10 times. You will repeat this. This is what it looks like when you are done with all 13 columns. As you can see, I'm coming out of that demi-round. We now want to continue on the outer rows. So what I'm doing next is I go up through all these beads. And I also go through that milky round bead, because we now want to add milky round beads and those bicone beads in between all those columns. So for this, I pick up a milky round bead, a bicone bead and another milky round bead, like this. And then you just continue on through those milky round beads. And now you need to, develop a feeling for your thread. So you just want to pull it tight enough that it sits snugly between those columns, but you don't want to leave too much thread. Just want to have them straight, you don't want any bending, like this. So next, when I'm done with a few of those bicone beads, I will add that little beaded bridge where I can then later on add that earring hook to. You know, that one. I'm going to do this now. So for this, I'm going to take up a demi round, 5 Miyuki round beads, and another demi round, like this. And you pass again through the next Miyuki round bead. And then you continue on with those Miyuki round beads and bicone beads. Then you add the last group of beads. Like this. And then yeah, you've got this little reel, I guess. You now need to add those demi-round tips. Those ones that sit on top of those bicone beads. So to add those groups of 5 beads, you always need to come out of that Miyuki round bead that sits right in front of that bicone bead. Then you pick up a Miyuki round bead, 3 demi rounds, a Miyuki round bead, and then you pass through that Miyuki round bead that sits right next to that bicone bead. And you can pass through all 3 Miyuki round beads right away. And then you place them on top. You may need to wiggle them around a little bit so that the center bead is the one that sits at the highest point. Again, Miyuki round bead, 3 demi rounds, Miyuki round bead, and again you pass through all 3 Miyuki round beads in between those bicone beads. You don't want to pull too hard, just so that these beads sit where they need to be. Pick up those 5 beads, 1 Miyuki round bead, 3 demi rounds, 1 Miyuki round bead, oh, just like that. and then you continue. Okay, so we're now at the bridge. You pass through all those beads on the bridge. Again, you don't pull too hard. And then you continue with adding those beads at the tips. And this is it. So you now only need to secure your thread. So what I usually do is I will place a knot in between a Miyuki Delica bead and a brass bead. Usually a double knot. And because those brass beads, they have such large holes, there's really no trouble in hiding those knots in those brass beads. And then right away I tie another knot in between the brass bead and the other Miyuki Delica bead. That. We go through the Miyuki Delica bead and you just cut the thread then. So that was the working thread. So then you could take a thinner needle and then you thread your needle with the tail thread. Then you go up through the demi round and the Miyuki Delica bead. You tie a double knot in between the Miyuki Delica and the brass bead. You go through that brass bead, you pull in that knot, and you cut your thread. And this is then your earring. You then take one of those hooks, you place it right on that beaded bridge, bend it closed, and there you have it. This color combination would also look super awesome if you used golden demi-rounds at the tips, you know, because then you have a recurring shade of gold or brass basically. But I think it looks fine with going all black on the outer row. So yeah. What do you think? Will you try it? That's the new one. Yeah, let me know what you think. Also, if you try it, let me know. So let me know whether you have trouble with getting the tension right, because I definitely had. I had a huge learning curve with these earrings, so if you don't get it right the first try, the second, the third, just keep on trying and adjust your thread tension. You will get there if you try it, okay? I definitely needed a few tries, so these are not super easy to make, my opinion. Okay, yeah. These are the ones. Also let me know whether you'd be interested in a download for these, you know, again with the bead graph so that you can plan your own colors, and also with 10 sets of color codes. That is it. If you are interested in learning more about beading or certain designs that I sell myself in my shop, please check out my channel. You can find all kinds of tutorials there. As I said before, I also sell downloads with color code sets in my jewelry shop if you're interested in those. And you can also find check beads in my bead shop. But for now, that is all. I will leave for my vacation tomorrow, so on Sunday. So if you're watching this right away when, you know, the new video is coming out, the processing time in my shops will be increased by about a week because I will be home with family. So for now, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for clicking this video. If you like this content, if you like this video, please leave a like, maybe leave a comment with feedback, questions, whatever you want to know. And please consider subscribing to my channel. I post on a regular basis beading tutorials, little chat with me videos, or studio vlogs about my small business. So if any of this interests you, please feel free to subscribe and come back at a later time point. For now, I'm out, and hopefully I will see you in the next video. Bye!